There we go. I'd like to bring the Morongo Basin Municipal Advisory Council regular meeting of January 13th, 2020 to order. Can we all stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Pioneer Town, Steve Bardwell. Yucca Mesa, Tom Ziegert. Here. Landers, Michelle Cicero. Absent. Joshua Tree, Ellen Jackman. Here. Desert Heights, Pat Flanagan. Here. Wonder Valley, Steve Reyes. Here. Morongo Valley, Gail Swearet. Here. Copper Mountain Mesa, Mary Helen Tuttle. Here. Johnson Valley, Jim Harvey. Here. Okay.
Has everyone had an opportunity to read the agenda for tonight?
I make a motion we accept.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay. Memorial adjournment. Oh my. For Ida Foreman Fick, Dorothy Beasley, and Thomas Falls. We'll have a moment of silence, please. Oh, the minutes. We'll get back to the minutes.
We should, Steve wants to, I have something to say about Ida. Would you like to do that now?
Yeah, do it now.
Okay.
Here, pass this.
Me? So it's my pleasure to read a statement from Bernie Sanders where Ida was at his meeting in Rancho Mirage that she passed. So let me go forward. Last week, Ida Foreman Fick, a Bernie 2020 supporter, passed away during a rally in Rancho Mirage. Ida was an accomplished artist, art teacher, and strong supporter of Senator Sanders, who committed herself to progressive causes throughout her life. She and her husband, David Fick, have been community activists based in Joshua Tree since the mid-1980s. The two are integrally involved in efforts to protect the desert from threats, including the massive Eagle Mountain megadump that was planned for the border of Joshua Tree National Park. I'm deeply saddened to hear of Ida's passing, said Sanders. She was a beloved progressive activist and teacher, and Jane and my thoughts are with her entire family. Ida was the daughter of Lieutenant Colonel James N. Foreman, a decorated tank commander under General Patton, who fought with the Third Army from the beaches of Normandy to the Battle of the Bulge, and later served as part of the Army's diplomatic corps in post-war Japan, where she was born. Ida was a teacher and artist who made encaustic paintings and taught fine art screen printing and printmaking at College of the Desert. Ida loved and shared the beauty of nature with her students, colleagues, and friends. After graduating Cal Arts, she partnered with her husband to run a fine art screen printing studio in Joshua Tree. She was inseparable from David for 44 years. The couple has one son, Arthur Foreman Fick. Everyone on the Bernie 2020 California team is saddened by the loss of Ida and will forever be grateful for her lifelong efforts to make this country a more just beautiful place, said Bernie 2020 California State Director Rafael Navarre. We will carry her values with us as we move forward and will always be thankful for her support. Goodbye, Ida.
Thank you, Pat. Can we now have approval of the minutes of the December 9th meeting. Has everyone had an opportunity to look at them?
So moved.
Is there a second? All those in favor? Aye. Public Safety Community Service Reports, County Fire.
2, 3. Good evening. My name is Donnie Valori. I'm a battalion chief here throughout the Basin. Basin-wide for December, not counting 29 Palms, will deliver those stats tomorrow at their regular meeting. There were 625 calls for service throughout the Basin. That includes Yucca Valley, so just the county fire stations those areas that we serve. Johnson Valley, there were 17 calls for service, and those calls for service can be any fire type, mostly medical aids. That's what we run the most of, but it can be any number of things. So I've got those stats here, and of course I'll share those with the committee members. Anybody that needs more information, please get in touch. I'm happy to break them all down for you. They're here in this documentation. 167 in just Joshua Tree, Landers 35, Pioneer Town just 1. Wonder Valley 17, Yucca Mesa 23, and the remainders were really in Yucca Valley proper. Anyway, it's obviously the burn suspension's been lifted for this particular time of year. It's winter time. We still have dry vegetation, but it's the gamble that the fire warden, fire chief Dan Munty takes by lifting that suspension, so everybody's able to burn again with a burn permit, not without a burn permit. So make sure that you have those. Those are for free. Just contact any of your fire stations, but you can get in touch with Lisa at the head office there on Airway, and we'll get you one. It's not a big deal. The parameters are still to keep fires small. You're not supposed to build giant piles and then burn them because they get out of control. All of us think we're great fire tenders, and we're not. We're terrible. And then they escape their little parameters, and then before you know it, your neighbor's house is on fire. There's a ton of liability to burning. So we allow it, but we issue a lot of caution as a result. We can't issue caution to the visitors because we just don't see them. So often it's a 911 call that's placed, and we go out and visit, with our visitors, our tourist population and so forth. So do your best to spread the word as best you can. It's not easy, but none of us want big fires anywhere here in the Basin. The summer was extremely expensive with respect to that same thing. I have zero idea when we won't be, or when we will be telling folks you can't burn. I have no idea. It's typically the beginning of fire season, which really is now 365 days a year, but it'll probably end up being May timeframe. June is when it'll end up happening. So other than that, remember, if you can, this Highway 62 corridor east-west, it's the only corridor for our ambulances to get to and from the hospital. That includes county fire ambulances along with Morongo Basin ambulance. There's just an untold number of folks that do not pay attention and yield the right-of-way for folks going by in those emergency vehicles. Again, that may not be anyone here in this room. I'm sure you're all outstanding drivers and observers of state law. But there are folks that are not, and we're trying to get critical patients to these hospitals. So just remember that. If it's not an ambulance, it's a fire engine, they're trying to get somewhere to solve a problem, to solve someone's emergency. And when folks have gone through the trouble of calling 911, it's because for them, it's an emergency, right? It's absolutely an emergency for them. It's their worst day of their life. That's the business that we're in, is correcting those problems. So we also need to get there to be able to help bring solutions to them. So anyway, just remind folks throughout your communities to pay attention to the lights and sirens. Beyond that, that's it. If you have questions, I'll be here throughout the meeting. Feel free to get in touch. I'll pass this on to, thank you all so much. I'm just going to leave that there.
Morongo Valley CSD Fire Department.
Hello, everyone. Well, for December, my name's Gary Yearsley. For December, our calls were down, which we were glad to see. About 20. We were at 45 this last December. With 19 of the calls were ALS calls, which is advanced life support calls. The others were BLS, that's basic, so we had one of those. We had 6 fires, 2 TCs, which is traffic collisions, 1 hazmat, and 16 public assists. So we had a pretty good month. We're glad we're always down. Thank you.
CAL FIRE, they're not here.
It's just me, Gail.
CHP,
Sorry. He's gone too.
Sheriff.
There we go. Good evening. I'm Lieutenant Niles with the Sheriff's Department. I hope everybody had a wonderful holiday season. We'll get back into the swing of the new year, 2020. So took a quick look back at December. We handled 1,790 calls for service, pretty much on par with our 1,800 average throughout the year. It dipped slightly. I attribute some of that to the significant snowfall we had. A lot of us just stayed in for a few days and enjoyed the white while it lasted. There is, however, been over the last month and a half, a significant uptick in the number of stolen vehicles throughout our entire Morongo Basin. I'm just putting that out there more as a public safety message. Please be cognizant of what you're leaving in your vehicles and lock them. Even when you just run in your house for a quick 10 minutes, unfortunately, there are people watching and they are quick to take advantage, and we have seen a lot of that in December, unfortunately. Can't attribute it to any one cause. Many of them have been recovered, but many of them are still outstanding. So please be mindful of that and watch your neighbors' properties and their vehicles as well. I did want to also mention, I think you know if you've seen it in the radio and in the newspaper, that we are working on our new cycle of our off-highway enforcement grant monies that we had. We started enforcement of that on select weekends since just before Thanksgiving. Right now we're at about 680 enforcement stops. Again, that's throughout the entire Morongo Basin, but predominantly in our unincorporated county areas. Very little enforcement is done either in the town or in the city. Other than that, I don't have anything else to report. Any questions that I can help answer tonight? Wonderful. Happy New Year.
Is there anyone here from Morongo Basin Haven? Yes, please.
Yes, there is.
All right.
First, I'd like to apologize. I'm the Haven representative to come here and give you updates. It's usually on Monday nights. Mondays are extremely busy for what I do, and sometimes I have runs late and I can't get here. But anyway, tonight I want to let y'all know of a couple exciting things we're doing in the valley. One thing is the fire station over in Panorama Heights. We're going to get that for an agency, Morongo Basin Arch, to use as a navigation center for people that are having difficulty staying in housing or need help getting back in housing. It's been a long process. It went from a homeless shelter to now just a navigation center, which we're thankful for, and we'll be able to have funds to get people back into housing or keep them in housing if they become behind on their rent. So that should be happening around the 1st of March or 1st of April. Then another exciting thing that's coming up is January. So every January, the San Bernardino County does their point in time count, where they spread out through the basin and they count the homeless individuals and report that to San Bernardino County, and then it goes on up to the state, and then it goes up to the federal government. What's exciting about this year is the fact that there's money coming to the basin. There's lots of money coming out here to help homeless people and to do things to help resolve the issues that we're having. There's a HAP funding grant that's been coming down from from Sacramento. It's been signed into law. It's I think it's about a $500 million grant throughout the whole state. So San Bernardino is looking to receive $3 million for that. Okay, and what they wanted to do is go out to the regional levels So right now, we're working on putting together a regional HPN, a homeless provider network, for here in the Morongo Basin. And it's going to cover the Morongo Basin and up to Needles. So the money was given from the state to the county on the number of homeless people that we have in the county. Okay, so that means that they want to try to give it out to us by the number of homeless people we have. Okay, over the past years, the count lasts for about 4 hours. It runs on January 23rd this year. We have an in-service on it and training on January 16th, which will be at the probation office in Joshua Tree, right behind Mark Lundquist's office. And we need more people to count. Okay, what they do is they give us maps. It usually runs right along the road, the highway, and we pick up homeless people that are staying behind McDonald's, Vons, Stater Brothers, and stuff like that. But our numbers are a lot higher than 151 people. Okay, our numbers are significantly higher. Our people are not all up and down the corridor of Highway 62. I spent the last 8 days going off the roads, and we have, like, in the dry lake bed, we have 30 to 40 people. Okay, right across from the hospital, there's a couple encampments that have 20 or 30 people. Okay, these people we need to get counted, and we need more people than the 30, 40 people that's been signing up to help us do the count. What I'm going to try to do is present tomorrow in San Bernardino to see if we can't get our window of the count expanded, because there's no way we can cover 1,400 square miles in 4 hours. Okay, so it's very significant that we make a count. If you guys know where there's homeless people at, you're willing to give us a call and let us know so that we can pinpoint an area and go out and see what's going on. Now, homeless people are not just the people that have the shopping carts running up and down the road. We have people that are living in encampments out in the desert. They're living in old RVs. We found a guy that's burrowed into the ground and has been living there for 40 years. So what we need, and what's a big important part, is that the people of you guys are spread out all over the community, okay? Because you represent just about every little area or township we have. And so if y'all want to write down my number, it's 760-401-0375. If you give us a call and let us know if there's people in your area that you know of that are not stably housed, that we would like to come out there and take a count. The more people we count, the more money we're going to get. Okay, right now we're getting just a little bit of money. We'll probably get about $200,000 out of that $3 million, and we should get a little bit more. We should get, I'm thinking about $600,000. Okay, with $600,000, we can do a lot to get people back into housing. The funding we have now, we can pay people's back rents if they fall behind on their rent. If they're out of housing, we can pay their deposits and their rents to get them back in housing. And then we can even pay if they have an eviction and that's stopping them from getting into housing. And we have a place that's willing to take them. If that eviction is paid, we can pay that past eviction. Okay, so the money that's coming down now, the HAP funding is going to be more flexible. Okay, so we're going to be able to use it to get people back into housing and keep them in there. Okay, so if you guys want to sign up for the count, you can go to San Bernardino County Point in Time Count. It's going to run on the 23rd. It's going to run from, I think, 6 o'clock in the morning to 10 o'clock in the morning. Big window, 4 hours. Okay, so the more people we have, the more people that we can count, the more money we get. Everything's going to start coming locally. For years, the money's gone to San Bernardino, and it's been hard to get it to come up this hill. But now we have people down there that's fighting for us to get the money, and it's starting to do that. Between the school district and Morongo Basin Arch, we brought in over $500,000 this year, and it's helping. So any questions? Wayne Hamilton. I'm the homeless liaison for the Morongo Unified School District. I'm a representative for Arch. I'm a representative for Haven. Spell my last name? Hamilton, Hamilton. Yes, ma'am.
go to meet again?
Is it going to be what?
Is the firehouse group going to meet again?
The Firehouse Group will meet again, okay? I have a list, we've met several times with the people that live out there, okay? And they're concerned about what we're gonna be doing. Okay, the last meeting, they wanted to see our lease. The lease that's gonna be given to Arch. So the lease probably will not be presented to them until the later part of February. Okay, so as soon as the lease comes out, that's what people want to see. That's what we're going to have a meeting and show. We'll probably meet next door at the Sportsman's Club and discuss what the lease is and hope everybody can settle down and we can get down to business.
Have you signed up for the county yet?
If you go to, just Google San Bernardino County, point in time count, or PITC, that will give you the information on it, and it also will give you a link to sign up. We currently, last few years, we've been getting about 30, 35 people. You go out in 3-people team, okay, the information is not, I saw somebody and you make a little mark. Okay, we have to collect information from them. So we engage with them, we talk to them, we get the information that the county or the state wants us to collect. It's all done on cell phones now or your pads. Okay, it's just a little page of questions that you ask. If they don't want to answer, you just skip. Okay, there's nothing that you have to get. We try to get as much as we can. The teams usually have 3 people, one person that's doing the information collection, one person that's kind of like just watching the area, and then we have a driver for the vehicle. Okay, we could use some off-road vehicles, drivers, if y'all know somebody that does that, or has a Jeep or something that would like to get involved.
I'm going to be involved with the count, and I'm going to be at the way station. And I know a lot of people go there for breakfast and lunch. And if you know some homeless people that are sleeping outdoors that night, please direct them to a way station, because that's a great place to count. Also, I think at the website at the county, they do not list Joshua Tree. They list Yucca Valley and 29 Palms.
Correct.
So sign up for Yucca Valley, even though you're going to be in Joshua Tree or some other place.
The same with 29
So
Palms.
you get into the basin.
We're trying to count all over.
Yes.
Okay, we're looking for people to count out Landers. We're looking for people to count in Joshua Tree. We have several that signed up from Joshua Tree. We just have a new group of folks that came on board from Wonder Valley. Okay, and then 29 Palms, they work out of the senior center on Adobe Road. Joshua Tree will be working out of the supervisor's office. So we'll have a place in there. I believe they're going to be using the town hall in Yucca Valley. And what we do is we get breakfast sandwiches. Okay, we work with Jack in the Box. So we take out breakfast sandwiches. We have some drinks for people. We have some hygiene kits and bags. We have sleeping bags. So we have stuff to give out as well as just collecting the information.
Morongo Valley.
Morongo Valley, they have a group that's down in Morongo Valley. So there's we're trying to collect some more information to get people sent out to areas that we've been missing over there. So whoever the folks in Morongo Valley will meet with us, we'll get them their information, we'll give them the supplies that we have to help people with, and they would hopefully get it all covered. Thank you. You're welcome. Any other questions? All right, I'll see y'all on the 23rd.
Now we're going to have a presentation from the Mojave Water Agency, Tom McCarthy, Water in the Morongo Basin, the past, present, and future.
Can you hear me okay? Okay, very good. Well, it's good to see some familiar faces, and I've put things so we should fit right at 20 minutes. If we've got time for Q&A, I'll be around. Boy, I lost my train of thought. Well, I guess we'll just get started. So the discussion outline today is I'll give a brief background, talk a little about what MWA, Mojave Water Agency, is. We'll look back at water in the Morongo Basin, and we'll look forward. And I just have a couple of snapshots. There's a lot more information, but really just to complete the picture in this amount of time, I just wanted to take a couple snapshots to get key points across. And then we'll give some thoughts on the future. So just some general housekeeping. Water units, I'm an engineer and a geologist by training, and so I easily slip into using units and sometimes abbreviations that are unfamiliar to normal people. And so I wanted to get a couple out there that we use all the time. And one is, it's an acre foot. And acre foot is often used as a volume in large water projects. So an acre foot is basically 1 acre with 1 foot deep or 12 inches deep of water. And historically, this was basically enough water for one family, generally speaking. But due to conservation, this has been basically, we're getting more out of our water. So now that's really depends on where you are, anywhere between 1 to 5, but on general now about 2 to 3 families per acre foot. And then similarly, and I try to always have a common example, a good way to think about an acre foot of water is about a football field, 12 inches deep in water. That's 1 acre foot. And then similarly, a CFS, or cubic feet per second. That's a rate that's often used for pipelines. And 1 basketball is about 1 cubic foot. And so if you hear a pipeline is delivering water at 5 CFS, that's about 5 basketballs per second. Okay? So just some general terms that we often use. So let's move on to a little bit of background. And just to start, the Mojave Water Agency, we were created in 1960 by voters and formed really as a state water contractor. I'll get a little more into our responsibilities, but there was a decision by those in the desert that they wanted to participate in the state water project. And it's not very common that you actually have a vote that's in support of people wanting to tax themselves for a project, and that's exactly what happened in this case. MWA is governed by 7 directors representing 7 different divisions. And Jim Ventura is here. He represents your division. He is the MWA director for really a fairly large division area-wise. But all of our divisions are divided by population. Each one has approximately 55,000 people in each division. Our agency encompasses just under 5,000 square miles. And so getting into a little bit of the contracting part of it, so we're one of 29 state water contractors. So there's the California Aqueduct, which goes really from the San Joaquin, Sacramento Bay Delta, all the way down California. And you'll drive over it if you drive on Highway 15, really right in Hesperia there. It just kind of kisses the corner of our service area and then moves on up into Silverwood Reservoir. From Silverwood, it then drops down into San Bernardino. And so we are a contractor, again, of that state water project. And then MWA uses its pipelines to deliver water throughout our service area, that 5,000 square miles. And we'll talk a little more specifically about that. And so the state water project, it augments local supply. In our case, that's groundwater. So to talk a little bit more about the state water project, I mentioned the Sacramento-San Joaquin Delta. You'll see the dark blue represents the state water project. And it begins there just east of Sacramento. There's a South Bay Aqueduct that actually moves over through Livermore and then into Santa Clara. And then as you move further south, there's the coastal branch that moves water from the Central Valley into really the Santa Barbara area. And as you move further south, there's a west branch which kind of comes in the north part of Los Angeles. And then the east branch, which wraps around the backside of the San Gabriels and really just kind of hugs the pass into Silverwood Reservoir there. And then as we get a little closer, that's the state project. This is the Mojave Water Agency service area, and I'm sure it's difficult to see, But the northwest corner, that's Red Mountain, so basically Highway 395 if you're heading up to the Owens Valley. And then in the southeast corner, the bottom right, that would be the Morongo Basin. You may see the sign there for Joshua Basin Recharge Site, and we'll zoom in on this. So if you look on the left side of this photo, which is the west side, you can see that light blue line I mentioned that just kisses the corner of our service area. That's the California Aqueduct, again, just hugging the backside of the San Gabriels and then into Silverwood Reservoir there with Cedar Springs Dam. And we have two major pipelines. One is the Mojave River pipeline, which is basically the same route as the Mojave River, which allows us to move water all the way to Newberry Springs. And then what we're here to talk about today is the Morongo Basin, and we've got the Morongo Basin pipeline, which moves water from the California Aqueduct all the way here, in fact, not too far away from where we're standing today. So you can actually see a molecule of water that can move from the Sierra Nevada actually here to Joshua Tree. And each water drop there, I know there's a lot on this map, but each water drop represents a groundwater recharge facility. And so originally the primary source of water for the area was groundwater. And the way we think about groundwater now in terms of reliability is just like a savings account. And the analogy I often use is if I haven't ever had a sales job, but if you have a sales job that is based on commission, some months may be better than other months. And sometimes statistically you might have an average in there. Well, you can kind of think about that the same as hydrology or precipitation. We can't predict the future of how much water will fall on the Sierra Nevada, but we do know it will go up and it will go down, and we tend to have an average. So what we try to do is move water throughout our surface area and put it into the ground such that when we have periods of low precipitation here and water levels are lower, we've built up our storage, just like our savings account. If we, getting back to my example, if we have a sales job with different commission every year, we're going to build up that savings account for those low years. So similarly, we do the same thing with water, that we try to build savings accounts up in different groundwater basins such that when we have a low precipitation year, either locally or in the Sierra Nevada, we have groundwater storage and we have reliability. One thing I meant to speak about when we first came up is following public safety and for that matter, reliable housing. It's interesting to talk about timing of reliability. So public safety, reliability is a matter of minutes and seconds. Housing, every night matters. For us, we're really much longer term. In terms of reliability, we're looking at 10 years, 20 years, even 50 years. Things like public bonds. Bonds are for large infrastructure projects. That's really the timeline we're thinking about. And that's what the Morongo Basin pipeline is based on. So getting back to just to wrap up the background, so our mission is to manage the region's water resources for the common benefit to ensure stability in the sustained use of the citizens we serve. And so I'm focused quite a bit on being a state water contractor. We're also just a general water resource manager, trying to move water around at the right place at the right time to provide that reliability and sustained use for our citizens. Another job we have that's not applicable to the Morongo Basin is we're what's called a water master. And a water master is an extension of the court. Some of you may have heard there was a lawsuit, and that lawsuit looked at how much groundwater can be used in each basin. And so we have 5 sub-areas, also called basins. And we're an extension of the court where we're basically an accountant, and we determine how much water is being used by whom. And there's a piece of pie, and everybody gets only their piece of the pie. And if you use more than your piece of the pie, well, then you have to buy additional water. And that's the overall sustainability in those areas. Okay, so let's get a little more local. So on this map you see before you, the left side shows our entire service area with the purple box showing the larger map here. And so then if you move to the right side, you can see, Highway 247 is the red line. There's a blue and brown dashed line. That's our pipeline, Morongo Basin pipeline, coming into the service area. and it may be easier to see. As it moves down, you can see Highway 62 is a red line moving east-west, and then it drops down to the southwest. And then each water drop represents a recharge facility where we can put water into the ground. And I want to just, for bearings, give you an idea here. These are the different water purveyors in the area. So to the far north, we have Bighorn Desert View. And if you can see way to the west side, there's a little square there. That's Pioneer Town, County Service Area 70W4. And then if you move further south, you have Yucca Valley. And that is the High Desert Water District, is the coloring there, the gold. And then on the right or east is Joshua Basin. And you may notice within most service areas, there's a recharge facility. Just a little outside Bighorn is the recharge facility, but it actually does provide reliability to them. So if we look at a couple wells, actually we'll get to the wells, but just a little more on the infrastructure. To the far north, we've got Johnson Valley Pump Station, one of Mojave Water Agency's facilities to move water into the area. Then again, the Morongo Basin Pipeline in the blue and the brown. That first water drop you see right about the middle of the image is the Ames-Retchie recharge site. And again, that's just outside Bighorn Desert View. And then moving further south, Warren Vista Reservoir, which regulates flow. And then as you drop down into the valley, you'll see recharge locations for High Desert as well as Joshua Basin.
Tom, can I interrupt you for 1 second?
Sure.
That water drop in Joshua Basin recharge site, does anybody know where that is?
Ellen, can you say exactly where it is?
You're sitting on it. The recharge ponds are right at the end of the parking lot.
All right, and then what I wanted to do is just highlight a couple wells. One of Mojave Water Agency as well as the water purveyors in the area, we're all keeping an eye and sharing information to make sure we can all make science-based decisions. And so I can talk about many more wells, but I just picked two to kind of walk us through and talk a little bit about historical water levels. So this one is further west. It's in High Desert Service Area, and it's west of the recharge facilities. So you can see what's there is a hydrograph, and that hydrograph is showing the water level, in this case, above sea level. So if water level drops, that means that we're losing storage. And if we think about the groundwater basin basically as a tank, if the water levels drop, it's the level of our tank dropping. So you can see from the 1960s through the 1990s, we had a plummeting water level, and frankly, not a lot of data points. But you can see once we started collecting data at a higher frequency, it does confirm where the water level was. Once the Morongo Basin pipeline came online, you see recharge occurring and then a significant increase in the water level, so coming back up. Of course, that has to do with local hydrology as well, but a big part of that is the capability to bring water into the Morongo Basin. And then similarly, within Joshua Tree, so this is further east, even east of where we're standing today, you'll see that the water levels were in a pretty good decline. And then Joshua Basin Water started purchasing water for recharge in 2014. So you see that kind of inflection point or change in slope right around 2014. And so we're seeing a definite impact from being able to recharge in the area, thereby affecting the overall reliability of a water supply. And a big part of this is the Morongo Basin pipeline. I think it's a key piece of infrastructure for this area, and I think everybody should know about it. This was constructed to address, again, the groundwater overdraft, those hydrographs that you saw with significantly decreasing water levels. Voters endorsed this bond with an 80% majority in 1988. Construction began in 1991, completed in 1993, and it's 82 miles in length at a total cost of $60 million. And first, High Desert began recharging water, and then eventually Joshua Basin did as well. And we now have storage accounts in the basin that MWA maintains, as well as some local purveyors. And what that does is, if there's ever budgetary issues with local purveyors, we've planned ahead to ensure there is water available in those times of need. We put a lot of water in storage this past year where it was wetter than average. We being Mojave Water Agency as well as locals. So I wanted to just touch on the future. I wanted to talk about what we know, what we don't know, and really how we try to handle that uncertainty of what we don't know. What you see here is the gallons per capita per day in water use, and I thought, okay, that's a little more animated than I thought. So what you see here is the gallons per capita per day in acre feet. So that's acre feet on the vertical scale there, and then that's time across the bottom, so 1995 through 2018. And so what you see for Joshua Basin Water District as well as High Desert Water District, you see a decreasing rate in gallons per capita per day. And then similarly for 2018, I just listed some other areas. So you see Beverly Hills, Fresno, Coachella, and Los Angeles. And you see a decreasing trend. Is there still more work to do? Absolutely. But the decreasing trend is not insignificant. This is great news. What I talked about at the very beginning about acre feet and how many families can use an acre foot, this is significantly changing our planning in a good way. We love to be inaccurate because people keep conserving water. This is good news. This is good news for all taxpayers because then we can then get more money, more bang for our buck in how we spend our money, something we pay close attention to. So this is something we know about the future is hopefully we'll continue to increase our efficiency. But we also know that the projected demand is to increase. And so again, on the vertical axis, we have acre feet, and this is now we're in thousands. And then across the bottom axis, we have time, so 2005 through 2040. This is part of what we call the urban water management planning process. And this all stems from, you may or may not remember, 1977 was a very warm year. I've worked in Mammoth Lakes, and I remember hearing stories about people playing tennis on Christmas Day because you couldn't ski. There wasn't a whole lot of precipitation that year. And what happened was there was a portion of Marin County that just flat out ran out of water, and they had to run a pipeline across the Richmond-San Rafael Bridge. And leadership at that time said, this can't happen. We cannot have Californians running out of water. And so they initiated the urban water management planning process, and now every 5 years, water retailers and wholesalers must prepare an urban water management plan that looks at 25 years into the future. What are your demands and what are your supplies? And they must be submitted to the state to ensure they have a reliable supply. So that's where these demand numbers come from the 2015 urban water management plan, which was actually submitted in 2016. But so that process will begin again now with the new plans due in 2021. So we know demands will most likely increase. As a state contractor, this is a busy figure, but I'll explain. As a state contractor, I mentioned that the amount of water that's available, it changes every year. It depends on the hydrology and how much precipitation there is in the Sierra Nevada. And you can see historically, if you go all the way to the left side, that's 1996, and then there's that axis is called the percent contract allocation. So Mojave Water Agency has an amount of water that basically we pay for the right to buy. Okay, that's our contract allocation or our contract amount. And then every year, the Department of Water Resources for the state of California determines how much of that allocation you actually can buy. So you pay a fixed fee every year for the right to buy it. And then you actually pay to move the water down based on how much water is available. So you can see in the the late 90s, 100%, 100%, 100%. All the water that we had the rights to buy, we could buy. But you can see since that time, it's significantly changed. We've had years down as low as 5%. But without actually drawing a line, I think all of you can look and see there's a decreasing trend there. So we know there's a decreasing trend, and well, some of it's probably hydrology, some of it's environmental regulation, There's a lot of different reasons, but when it all comes down to it, me working within this business, there's just operating rules that we've got to work within. I don't really see politics about these things. I just see operating rules that we have to figure out how to work within. So this is something we also know, that our reliability of the state project is decreasing. But I just told you that the state project is very important, actually, to this area being sustainable. So similarly, studies have shown that we're going to have runoff about 50 days earlier in the Sierra Nevada. Really, the best reservoir you can have is one that you don't pay for one, and two, that slowly releases the water. And so we can handle it, we can manage it. And so we're seeing that that's probably going to happen significantly earlier. And we're seeing probably a drop in just springtime volume. Now, people can argue about causes, people can argue about the actual numbers here. The intent for me as a planner in water resources is I've got to start to think about this. We've got to start to figure out how we're going to handle it. You know, people can argue about the causes, people can argue about the specific numbers, but I'm seeing changes, and we have to work within those changes to figure out how to maintain a reliable resource. Similarly, we have aging infrastructure within the State Water Project. The project was built in the late 1950s and 60s, and it hasn't been replaced. And, you know, probably hasn't been maintained as well as it could, but nonetheless, it's a serious piece of infrastructure that's just plain getting older. Current pumps reverse flow across the delta. We now know this is a biological problem, and some of the biological or permitting constraints are because of this. We have clean water supplies that are dependent on levees that are very old and frankly may not be safe in an earthquake. We have declining fish populations, and we have drought that's really shown us this can be an unreliable water supply source. I noted the 5% allocation year. That was a big problem for a lot of state water contractors. One thing we're fortunate about within Mojave Water Agency service area and within the Morongo Basin is if we plan right, we can really use the buffer of our groundwater supply and groundwater storage for those low years. There's other locations that frankly don't have groundwater supplies and they don't have surface water reservoirs. A great example is the Central Coast. That Central Coast pipeline is really fundamental to their water supply, and they're really teetering on how to manage in those low allocation years. So one thing I want to mention, and I couldn't get too into this tonight, but I think it's really important to recognize that there's several folks in this room that either work at a local water agency, or they represent them on the board, or they just frankly attend their meetings. Part of it is really getting everybody to work together. And there's a lot of people in this room that actually come up to Mojave's meetings, and we at Mojave try to come down to the local meetings as well. And that's part of really understanding how to move forward. It's one of the reasons I'm here tonight, is we want to understand what's going on with the water levels. We want to understand what's happening with our groundwater basins as well as the State Water Project. This is an example of that storage going up and down. We have plots like this throughout our service area to determine, based on groundwater production, what's groundwater storage look like. And I guess I'm kind of getting ahead. We also want to protect. So if we understand our storage, we can start to produce water in different places and protect the resource. We also want to conserve. This plot shows that we're doing well, but there's still room to improve. You know, some of our neighbors are doing better. So what can we do to improve? We want to import and store. This is just a really simple cartoon of how you bring water in, you put it into the recharge basin, and that lifts up the groundwater levels. And of course, you decrease groundwater levels around wells. So what can we do to import and store, but do it in a smart way? Do it when we have a higher allocation. Do it in different ways that can save money. And really, we want to constantly plan. I mentioned people going up to Apple Valley and then others coming down here, working together on the urban water management planning process. When the urban water management plans are prepared, they are prepared across our entire agency together. So we'll have the same input from Joshua Basin, from High Desert that we will from Hesperia, that we will from the city of Barstow. And so when you roll up all of our numbers in a larger wholesaler's urban water management plan, they all match. We've all worked together, and it's really a constant planning exercise. So what I tried to do today was talk a little bit about just the background and what is a water wholesaler, what is Mojave Water Agency, and then with the hydrographs illustrate that there has been some problems in the past with groundwater supply. What we've done, and I say we as a community, what the community has done by bringing in the pipeline then delivers imported water, and then trying to look forward that we've got some uncertainties, but we have a good roadmap for dealing with those uncertainties. And I think we'll all continue to try to work together. So that concludes my presentation tonight, and I'm happy to take any questions as long as we have time. Yes.
What about, like, people want to use cisterns and have water naturally or whatever, is that legal? Is that something you've been involved with?
It's not something that Mojave Water Agency gets involved with. Local retailers might have more information, but as far as storing it for use on your property, it's highly encouraged for conservation efforts. Yeah, and there has been programs in the past throughout Southern California of offers to help purchase them, rebates, etc., to make them available so people can use the water collected to water plants, etc. Yes?
How long have you been in water agency, or in the district of Mojave Water Agency?
So I've been at Mojave Water Agency just about 2.5 years. So I still have a lot to learn. I do. I recognize that. Yes?
Yeah, we've got a couple of directors in the room now in the Joshua Basin Water District. Are they doing a good job?
They're doing a fine job. Joking aside, they're doing a fine job, and it's part of that communication that making the effort to get to Apple Valley, and then I had Jim Ventura communicating with me, communicating with our staff when he's at their meetings here, and that also goes for High Desert as well as Bighorn, Desert View, as well as the county. That we all see each other often. It's just part of good communication.
Good to hear. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Yes,
Yeah,
Steve.
one statistic which stood out to me in your presentation is that LA is using in the neighborhood of 73 acre feet. What is it?
That was gallons per capita per day.
73 gallons per
Yeah.
capita per day, whereas Joshua Basin is in the neighborhood of 100, which kind of on my intuition was I was kind of surprised because I think this points out the necessity for education about conservation and really intelligent use of water, because that's, on the face of it, seems surprising to me. My gut level would be that, well, people in the desert here, are more cognizant of the preciousness of water, and I would think we would be saying more, hey, let's go,
Yes.
Let me educate the president of MBCA. Urban water use is far, far less than rural water use, because rural water use includes plants. About 60% of our water use out here is plants. If we just flush the toilet, take a shower, run the dishwasher, it is urban 73 gallons per person. But if you're in the desert, and you got to have something around your house to darken the shade and evaporative cooling, got to remember about that puts it up there.
There's a
Lots
lot
of
of
discussion later.
Yeah, there's a lot of landscaping in LA. I mean, you see lawns, they're just, the city is paved with lawns. That's why it's interesting to try to understand.
I think the
that
number's
what's-
wrong, actually. I had the same thought, like, I think that number's wrong. I want to see proof of that number
I think I should add to you that the state has added legislation on enforcing, getting towards a 55 gallons per capita per day target. There's been a lot in the news lately about policing that, and a lot of myths and incorrect reporting. It will be completed on a region-wide, so they will look at how much water is being used by an agency, and then looking at the different types of use and then the actual population. So, you know, there's no intention of the state coming down on someone that takes a shower and does 3 loads of wash in the same day. That's not going to happen. And so I want to make sure that gets out. The state's been pretty clear that there's been some bad reporting out there. The target is 55 gallons per capita per day, but they want to work with agencies to encourage conservation. Pardon?
LA, there's a lot less outdoor usage, I suspect, versus what takes place in rural areas. And in rural areas, we use a lot of back coolers and very air conditioning, basically. So there are some equalizers among that.
That's right. And to that point, there may be some credits applied, or frankly just better understanding on how evaporative coolers work. And MWA is working with others to fund a study to monitor how much water evaporative coolers do use, so there could or could not be a credit that's applied. Yes?
People need to preserve the native plants, the native vegetation, because if they rip them up and put in other vegetation, they're doing it's not very idea. Because the native vegetation, once it's established, it's very low water use.
Yeah.
So I see people moving out here and just clearing the land and then putting in other stuff. It's okay to have a little bit, not all of it.
Sure.
Okay, just to give you an overview, I've been out here 35 years roughly. And in 91, Division 2, which was the pipeline for the, actually it's pretty much the Yucca Valley. Because Yucca Valley had depleted their aquifer immensely. They had the smallest aquifer, and it was right over the densest area they were doing. And so they pressed for their pipeline. It was even called the Yucca Valley Pipeline or the SC Pipeline, different things. Eventually it was the Morongo Basin Pipeline. But just to give people an overview, Yucca Valley has gotten 40 times more water than Joshua Tree has in this era of the pipeline. It was very contentious when this was formed, because there's a lot of people, including little parts of the Morongo Valley, who knew they would never see this water. But we subsidized Yucca Valley's growth. We paid about a quarter of it because Joshua Tree is in it, and we got probably less than 1/40 of the water. So there's a certain amount of resentment for Yucca Valley being as irresponsible as they have been, and they still are, by people who are having to subsidize.
Anyone else? Thank you so much.
Go ahead.
I was kind of, in some of the things I've been reading lately, they're the Little Hoover Commission reports that I have in mind. They're starting to talk more about an adaptation to global warming rather than, or on an equal par with trying to slow it down or stop it, which seems naive. And so as the planet's temperatures go up, your snowpack in the Sierras is going to melt faster. I was just kind of curious, because I know you look out 50 or 60 years on some of these things. Is there going to be a capacity to capture that water as it increases its flow downward, so that we can get it into these storage facilities underground and all that, the aquifers, and not lose it, so to speak, especially in this environment where 5 minutes ago you were talking about rationing water. the word is rationing water.
So, in a word, yes, we're working on it. We have the 29 contractors work together to look at problems like this so we can pool our resources. So we have numerical modelers that are evaluating reliability into the future. Probably the biggest wild card is permitting. But to answer your question specifically, no, we don't have the capacity today, and we see problems in the future unless we do something about it. One of the projects that's proposed is the Delta Conveyance Facility. Under Governor Brown, it was the twin tunnels. Now it's a single tunnel, and the intent of that tunnel is really to take big gulps when it's available and move that water into a surface reservoir that's part of our system existing. And the idea is it's really just to operate when there are large storms where there is no impact to biological resources or water chemistry that can then affect biological resources. So that's the tunnel is the project to address that today, but there'll be continued evaluation looking at the problem, because long term we do have reliability issues if our reservoir, and I use the quotes, our reservoir in the Sierra Nevada isn't holding what it used to. Yeah. Yes?
Is there any plans, speaking of Yucca Valley, now that they have a wastewater treatment plant online, is to monitor that to see where they started before that came online and where they are running on water per capita and returning it to the system?
Monitoring.
Well, they're returning all their wastewater back into the system, which
Right.
has to help, and that's probably one of the reasons there was such high water usage. Is there any plans to take a look at what they're doing and see if they're bolstering their per capita usage?
So all of their use, all of their recharge, so their per capita use and any discharge from the plant that actually goes into the ground, as well as water levels, are all being tracked.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'd be curious to see in a couple of years how that.
Yeah. Yeah. We love watching systems. So yeah, given the choice, more data. But yeah. Well, yes.
I just wanted to thank you for making it pretty clear to novice, someone that doesn't know all this stuff. And your presentation was good, and I'm just thinking about the people who eventually will watch the video of this. Hopefully more people than just the smattering of people here will understand better what's going on in this area because of your presentation.
Thank you very much. I appreciate those comments, and I apologize if I maybe mix up local words and geography. I'm working on that. I can talk about water all day long, but I'm still orienting myself around the 5,000 square miles that we serve. So thank you very much.
I think Jim Ventura learned a couple of things too, didn't you?
I always learn something. Water is so sophisticated on how it flows and where it goes. Anytime I have an opportunity to listen to presentations like Tom has just done, there's always something to take away. There's always something. So the more, as indicated already over here, the more education we can do in the community, the more understanding about water and the reasons we do certain things, the better off we'll be in the future.
Will this increase your speech at La Vida now? Knowing this extra knowledge?
Well, that's all we need.
Okay, a chairman's report, that's me. I have nothing special to report. So we'll go on to the members of the MAC. Pat, do you have something to report?
I just want to talk 2 seconds about Dr. Bauer's book, The Desert Underground, which explains, she did not do the research, but she synthesized a great body of research that shows that our desert systems, plant systems, when they are not disturbed, that they have the capacity to go capture and store carbon. And I just finished doing another trip to from Death Valley, and
drive through thousands of acres of undisturbed vegetation, and it's now within my system. I keep thinking carbon, 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 and, you know, those plants are a little creosote. So this is an extraordinarily beautiful book. You come up and take a look at it if you haven't seen it. And it's available through Summertree. Just Google summertree.com. .org. And you'll see topics on the front page. And so each page of explanation is one, the written word, which is based on the research, and it's done in a way that you can understand it, and with gorgeous illustrations. Fabulous book. So I recommend it. That's my report.
Ellen?
With the increased traffic and visitorship in the national park, noticed that that first block from the park.
The highway and Park Boulevard, up just past Coyote Corner, is getting quite dangerous, I think, between the vehicle and foot traffic. And a lot of people basically crossing from Coyote Corner to the visitor center instead of crossing at the crosswalk on the corner. So my plan was to contact Superintendent Smith. He's been very responsive whenever I've contacted him in the past about issues with traffic. The neighborhood that I live in gets quite affected by the lines coming out of the park or waiting to go into the park. He's been very responsive, and so that's just my plan, is to contact him and maybe suggest that there be signs put in place, encouraging people to cross at the crosswalk on the corner, or some alternative means to try to get people to do that instead of crossing where it just becomes quite dangerous. So, and if anybody else is so inclined, I have, in case you don't have the superintendent's phone number and email address, I have that information I can provide after the meeting. Yeah.
You know, I've noticed something, and I don't know what the community thinks, but that island right there where you're talking about, we used to have a large Joshua tree there, and it fell over during a storm years ago. We had a small one growing, and then when they were doing all the road work there, somebody knocked it over and killed it. Oh. So there's no Joshua tree there, and I don't know if it would be through the park, or probably more like Caltrans or somebody, if something could be put. Yeah, or else maybe another one would get hit, I don't know. But I don't know what anyone else thinks about that.
We don't care.
I'm not sure if the island is kind of the island itself seems to kind of create a problem with the traffic because of the way that after two cars are stopped at the light, then the cars have to kind of wind around the side of that island, so that could be a problem too. I don't know if there's maybe a better place where another Joshua tree could be put, or I don't know. No, it's a good idea to put one back up. Just maybe, yeah, look at a good place for it.
I'm not sure about this, but my recollection is that that's a Veterans Memorial that's out there, that's what that island is.
Yes, it is.
Bob is sure, so he's more sensitive.
As part of the VFW, I think maintains a large portion of it. And, yeah, it's a commemorative memorial for service members.
So we have to potentially factor in, like say if there was some talk about taking it away or getting rid of it, we have to consider its purpose there and the sensitivities that are attendant to that. I don't know if there's any association between the VFW in that island, or who's got the football with that. Yeah. It's going to take a little looking into, I think.
Yeah, that particular held up the road replacement for about a year because the county couldn't find any records on it and how to deal with it. So they decided to leave it alone and just pave it. So that's good information, Bob. I didn't know that.
Mary Helen?
Yeah, we got lots going on out in Cotton Mountain, so first of all, breakfast is booming. The last breakfast we served 109 of those. That's a different variety this week? I am. None of the ones that Is that the one that was, is that the one that, because I just turned it on. There, is that better? Yeah, and this one's not staticky. Did you guys hear that? I thought somebody was squeaking their foot. It was you. Okay, so breakfast is booming. We had a ton of people. And the only thing is we're just all volunteers out there. And the last breakfast came out at 10 minutes to 12. And they, you know, when they come in at 10:30 and there's, 90 people there, what the heck are you going to do? We're hustling. So anyway, it's doing very well, and it's kind of exciting for us. Also, we're looking for volunteers out there. So we have a young lady who is starting a volunteer program. She actually had a meet and greet for some folks. We had about 10 new people show up. We're going to need help with our building in doing some of the repairs that we need for the county, and some other people want to help with breakfast, and they want to help with a couple other things. So I think that's kind of exciting that somebody else is wanting to do more out there, basically. I want to remind everybody that because of the federal holidays in January and February, the USDA food giveaway is this week, and it will be the second week in February as well. So because Martin Luther King holiday in January and President's Day in February, the USDA food delivery will be the second week of the month, not the third week. So that's been on the radio, it's been in the newspaper, but if you know anybody who goes and gets that free stuff, they need to know that. And also, we have Frontier is out in our area a whole lot, and they're actually paying attention to what we've requested. They were out there and just raising holy heck. And you know as well as I do, just because you don't see anybody doesn't mean nobody owns it, and it doesn't mean that nobody lives out there. So they were really causing some trouble, and we got really cranky about it and let them know. And they're working with us, and it could actually be beneficial to the community center. So I'm excited about that.
About roughly this time last month, Rebecca Unger, who's on the Joshua Basin Water District, along with me and Bob Johnson here, President of the board. She and I were out there maybe 3 weeks ago, and there was a sort of a disaster preparedness meeting.
Yeah, yep.
And then there was some talk about having a follow-up, possibly at the end of this month. Do you have the date for that?
I don't. I was on vacation when they had that, and I believe I haven't seen anything about it. The other young lady who is assisting running that, her name is Kiara, and I know she's not back from her holiday yet either. So I'm thinking the end of January, February, something. I don't, but as soon as I do know it, I'll let everybody know for sure.
Well, for the first meeting, there was an article in the newspaper.
Right.
And maybe if that doesn't cost anything, that is another.
Yeah, usually community announcements are fine. And are you on our mailing list? I think Rebecca is on our email list. So that is a service we give to our members for $10 a year. Thanks.
Tom? Steve? I was thinking Tom was still here.
Hi, Happy New Year, everyone. Well, first of all, we had that big snow. We had a lot of snow up in Pioneer 10. We had nearly 20 inches up at our house up Gamma Gulch, and I want to thank the
thank the county for plowing the roads. They did a real good job for the paved roads. The dirt roads, we were on our own. But, and noted there was, up where we are especially, there was quite a bit of damage to Joshua trees that lost limbs due to the weight of the snow on there. It was very sad to see, and I think it's just an indication of these trees are getting old, so nurture those new ones. I got some very good news from Mark just this evening that, and very good news after looking at the minutes. Last time, my goal for 2020 was to see a dark sky ordinance coming along, and Mark tells me that a draft has been prepared. It is now, so we're in the works on this thing, and this looks very encouraging to see some movement on this. Thank you very much, Mark. I'd also like to to announce that on January 25th, the Morongo Basin Conservation Association, we're having our 50th anniversary, or beginning our 51st year annual meeting, and there'll be some presentation about the concept of sustainable tourism. And we have David Smith will be making a presentation, as well as Chris Clark. So it promises to be a very good a good event. I encourage people to attend. It's open to the public. Also during this meeting, we'll be unveiling our book of Celebrating the Past, Envisioning the Future. It's a history of MBCA, looking back and what we're looking to do in the future. So we're very excited about that. If people, we encourage attendance. We're trying to make this a zero waste event, so bring your utensils so that we can do our bit to help on that.
What's the date again?
This is January 25th. That's in the Yucca Room at the town of Yucca Valley. Starts at 10 o'clock, 10 to 1, so we're invited. Some news, the county approved the development of the Daggett Solar Power Facility out in Newberry Springs and Daggett. And the Newberry Springs Community Services District and Friends of Newberry Springs have filed a suit against the county, claiming that they should not have done this. A lot of MBCA has posted this on our website, the actual lawsuit, and it pretty well explains just the points of contention that are being made on that. And just one brief point here, it occurred to me as we were talking about community announcements, I received a notice from Livestream. Apparently, in this area, we are out of type O blood. So if anyone can get out and donate blood, it's, I think, really would be a good thing to do. That's it.
I'll be hosting a community meeting on January 29th at 11 in the morning at the Wonder Valley Community Center. Lieutenant Niles and Captain Newport will be present, as well as Kim Pope from the base for civilian liaison with the community. I think if anybody is interested, has friends that are interested in buying property in Wonder Valley, I think coming to these community meetings is an excellent opportunity because you actually get to talk to community members instead of just that vast open desert. I'm also trying to get somebody from Frontier to come and give a presentation, or at least be available for input, because Frontier's done quite a bit of work out in Wonder Valley, and there is some confusion about what exactly they have to offer. So that's all I have.
Well, the big event, King of the Hammers, is out. The opening day is January 31st. It's actually going to run a little longer than normal, 10 days this year, because they're adding some races back into the schedule. I did hear that they're going to have music this year, and I didn't get any specifics on it, but from what I understand, they are going to have some national acts. So keep your ears peeled on that. That event is just getting huge. So, I mean, living in Johnson Valley, being the smallest or one of the smallest communities in the entire area, we become one of the largest communities for 10 days. It's something else, but anyway, that's all I have.
What was the population last year, do you remember?
In Johnson Valley, or attendance? Oh, I think, I don't remember, but I thought they said they had over 60,000, but I think there was more, between 60 and, it could have been up to 100,000 people in it. 70, so, yeah, amazing. Thank you, Gail.
We're going to have public comments now. Jane Jarlsberg.
Thank you, Jane Jarlsberg. I live in Joshua Tree, a happy resident. First thing I wanted to mention, segueing from the water theme, is that I'm a member of the Citizens Advisory Council of the Joshua Basin Water District. And we're meeting actually tomorrow night, and it is an open meeting. I wanted to invite people to come and attend and get active, and then the board meeting is the following night. Tomorrow night at 6 o'clock at the Water District building, and the board meeting is at, I believe, 6:30 on Wednesday night. So if you want to stay up to date locally, those are good meetings to go to. And you can see from the map, we're actually quite a large area of this Morongo Basin area. So it's significant to be involved here locally in Joshua Tree. Let's see. One of the things I wanted to mention again is that I'm hoping that maybe these public input period can be moved to the beginning of the meeting tonight. I think we have, our audience is riveted. I haven't seen anybody leave early, but quite often they leave before the end of the meeting, and then we have no one to speak to. So I want to encourage you to rethink the public comment time. Also, I want to mention I'm a California senior legislator, and right now we're in the midst of seeking support for some of the bills that we designed in November, and looking for community people to help support bills that will impact on our local seniors. I will be making a presentation at a couple local organizations about bills that will affect, that will be in effect this year now, that affect our local seniors. And maybe at a later date, I'll be able to give you more detail on what specific bills we're talking about. The other thing I wanted to mention is, is I'm concerned about the rough road that we have on Highway 62, and I understand Caltrans is one that impacts that. And I'm wondering how much impact we might have as a MAC or the county representatives on how that repair is done. There was a discussion today on Facebook about how noisy it is living near the highway, and that there's actually a substance that could be put on the surface that would quiet the traffic for the local area. And I was thinking that when the repairs are done, perhaps they might consider this substance. I don't remember the name of it. Thank you.
To let the community know that behind every so-so man is a great woman. And she wasn't here for several reasons. One is she had a much sharper political tongue than I did. And even though she was a public speaker of quite some note, she was an art history teacher for 20 years. So she didn't have any trouble speaking her mind. It's just that you guys wouldn't want to hear it half the time. I was the diplomatic one. Now, she... So, just so you know, the fire station that they're talking about, we spent 3 years fundraising for that fire station in Panorama Heights when we were part of the Panorama Heights Community Association. Also, Ida's studio and guest house was used as headquarters in 94, 95, 96 for a political action committee called Desert Environmental Response Team. We were the headquarters and hub for the resistance to the Bolo Rail Cycle battle of, well, that went through 94 through 99. It was a mega dump out near Amboy that would have been 400 million tons, or about 2/3 of the size of the Eagle Mountain battle. And by hub, I mean, we were the group that held together the coalition against the Bolo rail cycle. And she was very involved with that. And some of the repercussions of that is we have had a lot of great input to Dennis Hansberger and Kathy Davis, who were the supervisors back then, that we got in. I introduced Jim Ventura to Kathy Davis on the streets of Joshua Tree. Ida was there with me. I also had approval of Mrs. Pedersen, who was then mayor of Yucca Valley. She got divorced from Mr. Pedersen. She was desperate for a job. She approached Hansberger, even though she had voted for Bolo rail cycle. She felt it was such a done deal that they might as well be on the good side of them instead of the bad side. So she was the deciding vote on that, and Hansberger asked me, would you allow her to be a county agent? And we said yes. We were very forgiving of that. So that about rounds it up. There's a lot of stuff that Ida did to help me be in front of you, including I was with the JT Mac for 7 years, between 2006 and 12. So, oh, and vote Bernie.
Okay, that's bringing this meeting to a close. I hope we'll see you all on Monday, February 10th at 5:30. That's when our next meeting is. And Lib is here. We've missed you, Lib. Lib used to be on the board, and it's good to see you here. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I so
Yes.
move.
Second. All those in favor? Aye. Good night, everyone.